These agreements require employees of the government of Canada that access these documents to sign confidentiality agreements. And why is that? Why is there much more redactions, as my colleague said,
why is
in
that?
these documents than in other documents?
Tell us, Anthony.
It's because these documents were signed at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was desperate for vaccines, when companies were being told to rush vaccine production, do testing in an unprecedented way, in a way they normally don't do it. So these companies were exposed to way higher liability, putting their products on the market than they normally would, because they didn't do the type of testing that normally takes these drugs years to come to market. They did it all in less than a year.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's why these companies said, if I'm going to deliver you this product that I haven't tested in my normal way, I want to have different conditions. And with all countries around the world competing with each other to get these, the countries had less leverage than they normally do. For example, if we were entering into flu vaccine contracts or monkeypox contracts or other things that were normally available, this would be a different issue. But these are already signed. They were signed at a time the government didn't have that leverage in negotiations. We just wanted to sign as many vaccine contracts with as many producers as possible because Canadians were desperate for vaccines. And in the end, it worked out. We got vaccines, and we were one of the countries that got to vaccinate everybody the fastest.
I'm going to start this off periodically just so that the world can hear that clip. That's Anthony Housefather. He's a member of the Liberal Party for procurements or some I don't know, ministry. I don't know what his title is. I don't really care. We can look it up afterwards. That's Anthony Housefather, member of Canadian Parliament, explaining eloquently, thoughtfully, in meticulous detail, what the Canadian government did to Canadian citizens and what governments across the world did to their citizens. The funny thing about this clip, I've commented on this clip and I've tweeted it out multiple times. And I still, for some reason, can't easily seem to find my tweets with this clip in it. I wanted to play it once intact, or at least that 1.5-minute section intact, originally retweeted by True North. Everybody has to understand what the hell Anthony Housefather just said right there. This is the equivalent of Time magazine explaining how they didn't rig the election, they fortified it. How they didn't subvert democracy, they preserved it. It wasn't election fraud. It was a secret cabal of well-funded individuals working across platforms to control the flow of information, change the rules and laws. What Time magazine described in its article as election fortification is exactly what most people would consider election rigging. What Anthony Housefather has just testified to here is nothing short of explaining how the people were experimented on and how these pharma companies knew the inherent risks of bringing their product to market in the absence of proper production, manufacturing. We've seen recall after recall. In the absence of proper testing. And they said, well, we were so desperate for this vaccine because we had whipped up a population into a frenzy over 2+ years to let them think the only way out of this is with a vaccine. Give us anything to shut them up because we've whipped them up into such a frenzy. Well, we can't give this to them because we haven't tested it properly. We don't really have, oversight for production. We're not doing it unless you immunize us. And that is somehow supposed to explain away as opposed to incriminate the government. Let's listen to this one more time. And I'm going to snip this. I'm going to clip this so that everybody can understand exactly what the government knowingly did to the people.
These agreements require employees of the government of Canada that access these documents to sign confidentiality agreements.
He's talking about confidentiality agreements signed between government and government employees so that they would not disclose to the public what they were seeing in the documentation that they would be consulting in the day-to-day of their government employment.
And why is that?
Why is that,
Why
Anthony?
is there much more redactions, as my colleague said?
Because when they asked for this documentation under like the Canadian equivalent of a FOIA request, it was highly redacted. Why is it redacted, Anthony? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because
in these documents than in other documents. It's because these documents were signed at the beginning of the pandemic.
That's not an explanation for why they were redacted. That's just a context. But keep going. Keep digging your hole, Anthony.
When everybody was desperate for vaccines.
Everyone was desperate.
When companies were being told to rush vaccine production.
Rush vaccine production. Google COVID-19 vaccine recalls. AstraZeneca had one. I think, I don't want to make a mistake as to which recalled millions and millions of doses of vaccines. Why? Because the manufacturing was rushed. Not my words. Anthony Housefather's words. Production was rushed.
Do testing in an unprecedented way.
Unprecedented way, meaning not normal testing. Hey, oh yeah, no, they're not experimental because we've done 2 years of testing. There is no way to rush 10 years of safety data. There's no way to rush it unless you're an idiot and you think there's a way to rush 10 years of safety data.
In a way they normally don't do it. So these companies were exposed to way higher liability, putting their products on the market than they normally would.
Can you believe?
Because they didn't do the type of testing that normally takes these drugs years to come to market. They did it all in less than a year.
Well, they did years of safety testing in a year. Do you understand what he just admitted here? They would not bring their products to market because of increased liability due to rushing of every aspect of the development. This is a member of Canadian government.
So that's why these companies said, if I'm going to deliver you this product that I haven't tested in my normal way,
i.e., oh no, what did I just do? i.e., haven't tested.
These agreements
haven't tested in my normal way
because they didn't do the type of testing that normally takes these drugs years to come to market. They did it all in less than a year.
It's amazing. They did years of testing in a year. It's amazing. It's amazing. No questions.
So that's why these companies said, if I'm going to deliver you this product that I haven't tested in my normal way.
In my normal way, meaning the way that has always been traditionally acceptable for vaccines, for any medication.
I want to have different conditions.
Different conditions. Immunity from liability. If I'm going to sell you shit, I don't want to be sued when people get sick from my shit that I sold you because I rushed every aspect of this. Because you whipped up the population to a frenzy where they were convinced the only thing that was going to get them out of this was a product, even if it was improperly tested shit.
And with companies, all countries around the world competing with each other to get these, the countries had less leverage than they normally do. For example, if we were entering into flu vaccine contracts or monkeypox contracts.
Less leverage. Do you know what that is another synonym for? Getting exploited. Well, I don't have leverage, so I have to accept a shitty bargain because I don't have leverage to negotiate a stronger agreement with you. That is this guy right now, Anthony Housefather, saying the government didn't have the leverage to negotiate a good contract for their citizens. So what did they do? They gave a good goddamn contract to the pharma companies.
Or other things that were normally available. This would be a different issue. But these are already signed. They were signed at a time the government didn't have that leverage in negotiations. We just wanted to sign as many vaccines.
We just wanted to sign anything.
Contracts with as many producers as possible.
Immunize them. We just wanted to sign anything. Stick it in your arms. Roll up your sleeves.
Because Canadians were desperate for vaccines. And in the end, it worked out. We got vaccines and we were one of the countries who got the vaccine.
In the end, it worked out. We got something. It's criminal. In my humble opinion. Nothing shy of it. Oh, I wanted to show you something about that tweet. No. So that tweet was in response to somebody criticizing me for saying, Viva, you referred to the jab as a experimental gene therapy that had not been properly tested. And I replied with, yeah, because the NIH on its website refers to it as an experimental vaccine. Because Anthony Housefather, Canadian member of Parliament, admitted it wasn't properly tested. Gene vaccine, or gene therapy, all right, we'll debate on that. Because the fact checks on whether or not the COVID jab is gene therapy say it's not gene therapy because it wasn't designed to modify your genes. Didn't say it didn't. And I don't really know, it didn't say it didn't modify whatever, do whatever it is that gene therapies do. It said it's not gene therapy because it wasn't designed to do it. Semantics are very important, especially when you're coming from the wordsmiths of the devil fact checkers. I bet you're all wishing that I'd started with a Justin Trudeau clip, eh?